we're continuing in the book of Numbers and further into chapter 11, going on into verse 4, when it says that there was the mixed multitude, or all these foreign background people who just joined church in the Exodus. Because if you remember, in Exodus 12 verse 38, I think it is, it said a mixed multitude joined in the Exodus. And it's one of my favorite verses in the book of Exodus, because that sense that church is this international gathering of people, as promised to Abraham, that people of all nations would be blessed. And there's this wonderful way in which in the Exodus, after the plagues and the Passover, all kinds of different nationalities see this, the reality of the Lord God, and want to be part of this, a way out. They want a way out of all the pagan lifestyle and everything that they've been in, and they join in. And you can imagine there'll be Egyptians, obviously, Cushites, Ethiopians, Libyans, Berbers, I don't know, all these different peoples of the region, Midianites. And they join in the Exodus. So that's a wonderful thing. But they are brand new Christians. Think of them like that. Brand new Christians who've got all this pagan background, and they're just learning the ways of the Lord. And Egypt had been this massive empire, which obviously had got people from all over the world coming to be part of this tremendous buzzing empire of money, power. And yet it had been all these worship of these pagan gods and the lifestyles that go with it. So here they are, brand new Christians, joining church early in their discipleship. And when they are, it's continuing this problem of grumbling, really, because these new Christians who are just very early in their discipleship start yielded to their intense craving, because they want the meat, all the nice food of Egypt. They're beginning to feel the cost of following Christ. And thinking back to the nice restaurants and all, you can eat what you want, glorious food, tremendous diversity of diet, everything. They remember meat, fish, cucumbers, melons, onions, garlic. You can see that they're sort of imagining it all. And then now, everything's just dry. So all those are, dishes full of moisture. And now they don't have all that moisture. And even this manna, which is like coriander, seems very dry in comparison to all that moisture and sauces and things like that. Now, what should have happened is that the mature Christians, the people who've been believers for a long time, established church members, should have been able to take them under their wing and say, hang on, don't do that. Don't start focusing on your physical desires, and don't start imagining all these tremendous pleasures and fascinating dishes of food and things. Don't do that. If you start focusing on that, your heart's going to be taken by those things. It's going to get ever worse the more you talk about it and imagine it. Stop doing that. Let's turn our attention to the angel of the Lord, Christ, who's in the center of our community, leading us, caring for us. Look at the pillar of cloud and fire. How wonderful is that? How is your soul satisfied in fatness? And in this time of testing, while we don't have all the food and water, it was only supposed to last for like a few weeks, this period, passing through the desert and getting into the promised land. That was supposed to be a quick time, really, in the original plan of it. And then they were to go into the promised land with plenty of food and provision. Of course, it ended up being 40 years, but that's because that they had failed this test. But so you can see that the need was for the mature believers to sort of, don't worry, we'll show you how to say no to your passions and yes to Jesus. But as we've seen, the mature believers couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They were full of grumbling and bad attitudes and faithlessness. And so these new believers were badly let down. And they ended up, developing these bad attitudes, and the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused against them, and he feels sad about saving them. It's really sad, isn't it? The great takeaway point is if you've been a believer for some time and you're a member of church and you've been in church for several years, it is so important that you actually are growing into maturity so that you can help new believers. That if you're if you're falling into exactly the same trouble that a new believer does, and you haven't learned how to say no to your passions and how to say yes to Jesus, if you haven't learned how to do that, what use are you to all these new believers? That's if you even meet new believers, because often if some of us have been in churches where there isn't any maturity, then it's probably no surprise we don't really see any new believers, because the Lord just can't risk giving us new believers if all we're going to do is drag them down into the mess we're already in.